here we go. So, welcome to Less Consulting Puff podcast. Can you hear me okay, gents?
Yes. Good
Great.
morning.
So,
Perfectly.
so today we're going to do the breakdown on SAP's big announcement, SAP Business Data Cloud. So we've got with us Paul Byrne, we've got with us Paul Caresta, the SAP Whisperer, and we're just really going to sort of like break it down. And just so that we get into the true spirit, we're just going to sort of like uh, play a little bit of funkiness, because that was a really funky video from Mr. Klein, wasn't it? And we really like that. So we did actually have some dancing going on, but it won't play. All right, so stuff that. Um, so first of all, before we start the serious stuff, what do you think of the video? Paul
The, vi-
Byrne.
the video, the video today of the SAP
Yeah,
Unleashed, I thought it's way too corny, way too glitzy, too much, trying too hard to be cool and choreographed. Um, we want to get the facts. We want to get the information. We don't need all this song and dance and white trainers and white t-shirts. Sorry.
you're sounding a little bit like Louis Walsh and the X Factor there. He's just so it's a no from you then.
I know Louis Walsh personally,
Yeah.
let's not even go there.
Fair enough. And to our other boy band member, what do you think, Paul C? What did you think of that wonderful video?
Largely the same. My execs don't give a damn for dancing people in leotards. They want to understand what the value proposition is, how it's going to drive the bottom line, how it's
Yeah,
going to get rid of problems, increase efficiencies. They don't care what Christian Klein wears. They don't care to be part of the little sneaker brigade. They just want to understand what SAP's value proposition is and how to
yeah,
operationalize that. So Um, I understand him perhaps trying to reach to a target upcoming generation,
yeah,
but my advice to him, if he ever listens, don't forget who put you there, and it's this generation and this crop of leaders. They have no interest in your dancing team.
yeah. So there is a construct, isn't it? If you don't actually talk to your customer properly, you're never going to sell. And
Yeah,
so, right, one of my observations was before it's just a simple observation that SAP goes through cycles of where either an organization which focuses on business process and it's all about the business, and therefore our key stakeholders are CFOs and COOs. And then suddenly we forget that and we go back to being a techie nutcase company where it's all about tech and quantum computing and in-memory databases and BTP and stuff no one cares about. Um, and it felt today that we were going back to techie nutcase stuff. It made me my observation before. I'll shut up. But my only observation was when they started talking about business scenarios, was when they started talking about funky CFOs using it. And I was just thinking in terms of most CFOs in the FP&A space struggle to even close properly with SAP still, even in S4 now with AI attached to sort of like closing cockpit organizations still struggle to close, let alone drive value from FP&A out of SAP. I mean, most of the CFOs are still pretty hacked off. BPC's gone, and they're having to use bloody god awful SAT group reporting. So, you know, that funkiness is misplaced because I agree with you in terms of didn't really feel that anyone really explained the true business value. There was no tangible benefits there for me. Right, so I'm going to shut up. So, what did this do? I mean, I think essentially SAP have formalized their take on the intelligent data fabric by cobbling together their existing divergent data products and tooling and spliced it with Databricks and stuck a bit of AI agent stuff on the side via a catalog with a Joule on top. So for me, it's sort of like it was an evolution. It wasn't a revolution. It wasn't the greatest thing in 10 years SAP have ever done. For me, that's still SCP. So, do you think that's a fair take in it, Paul? Paul C. What's your view of what we saw today?
my view is there was a three-pronged attack from or approach to market for SAP. One is a land grab, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking at grabbing the data pile and controlling it the same way they do with RISE. So put it on a SaaS and a subs model and control it on anything. The other one is give a breath of life into 3 products that I believe should have died or been sent their termination notice a long time ago. And then the third thing is trying to federate information and make it look easy when in fact it's going to be everything but. I still, at the face value, if I look at the architectural design, the very, very simple diagram they put on there, they make it look so easy, right? It just sits on top of the data piles that you have. You don't even have to zero touch, right? You've got the semantic layer and a couple of toys and tools and an inside apps. It's so easy. But where are the millions and billions of dollars clients are going to have to spend to wire this all up, make it all work? The product head was talking about you don't have to worry about product life cycles anymore. And I really scratched my head at that. And I was like, really? What about interoperability and what about product lifespans and what about indirect access, digital access, license controls? Man, the story initially at the first 10 seconds was like, oh, this could be good. And then cold reality set in. And I was like, this is just a land grab.
Mr. Byrne, what do you think?
I'm pretty much on board with what you said, Paul, and you, Alistair. You could have done all of this with Databricks, but also, plus, what about I know they did mention the external data sources of the different systems you've got, but again, if you use Databricks, it seems to be just a rehash of data warehouse, data cloud warehouse, data hub, data whatever. Talking about AI, with God, everyone's talking about these days, and just nothing new. It's and nothing as fantastic as it was pitched to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all good. I think you're right. I mean, I think a couple of points dropped out for me, and we've got it on our Dragon website where, I bang on about data alchemy all the time. We have this row, don't we, about I love dirty data. And I've always said dirty data is perfect for AI, and Christian almost said that today. So we won't talk about that because I know I bore everyone when I tell everyone I'm right. But I think data's always been a bit of a pickle, hasn't it? Not just for SAP, but for everyone, because the whole point that BW is still sitting there humming away today, it speaks volumes in terms of the lack of dynamism in that data space, because most BW systems are hard coded to either ECC and BW or S4. And when you try to sort of like do any form of migration and upgrade, the first thing which breaks is always that BW feed and people forget about it. So BW stood the test of time because over the last 30 years I've been in the industry, you constantly see new data products coming in. People go off and invest in loads of data tooling and products and stuff. They never ever deliver their benefits. They never get used properly. And the entire sort of like data architecture for most enterprises is basically a battlefield full of loads of discarded data applications which never really work properly. And just no one ever gets the benefit out of the data. So I love the construct of the data fabric. I love the construct of the intelligent data fabric. But my vision was always that you're going to come along with a proper SaaS product at some point, which would just drop down on all your aggregated data, would go pull it together. You'd have your AI agents to do your cleansing, all that type of stuff. And then you're going to have your AI agents, which would be sort of like process or sort of like query specific and spit it out, which is all very, very logical because you almost want a clean start, don't you? This is the worst of all worlds for me because it's sort of like it means that DataSphere is retained and it's lipstick on a pig. I hate DataSphere, you know that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with BW at all. DataSphere for me is just, I don't know what the point of it ever was when you already had sort of like Data Hub and all the other stuff in the architecture. And if SAP's biggest growth area at the moment is the mid-tier with S/4HANA Public, and that's going really well, and we absolutely love it. And we know because we work extensively, don't we, Paul, in the mid-tier, that And even when we do sort of like carve outs with a private equity, the first place we go to in terms of our data strategy and when we start to look at aggregated data is we do Power BI because it's cheap, it's simple, and Power BI has got machine learning built into it, and you've got AI agents being dropped in around it now, and it comes with a HANA connector. You know, I specialize in the finance domain, and no one really makes use of sort of like the finance data lake in S/4HANA. No one makes use of it. People go on about it. Oh, you got the universal ledger. No one cares. No one makes use of it because everyone's got disparate data sources, and therefore no one gets any value. And it's like the real world is people just cobble together, put a bit of Power BI on or go to a hyperscaler. They just don't want to invest in this form of architecture. And I think, Paul C., you said, and maybe you want to say it again, it's just this absolute wasted investment. And people are going to have to pour millions into this, aren't they, to make it work?
Well, let's just take a look at the model again. Business semantics and datasphere. Really? You've got Databricks on the right-hand side. The only reason why you'd have BW is for legacy, and we all know why it's there, right? It's too hard to get rid of, or it's very difficult to get rid of. You don't need Analytics Cloud. You don't need Datasphere. I'm struggling to understand what is the business value proposition. SAP, why should I buy this solution? What is it going to do for me that is fundamentally different from what I can pick off the shelf today? And I'm in my perspective, there is nothing. This
No.
is a coupling together I'll say it again, third time. This is just a land grab on data. I
Yeah.
cannot see any other value proposition for SAP other than that, and obviously giving BW another shot in the arm, which they famously, got Hasso to stand up and say that BW is dead. You remember that famous statement? BW is dead, yeah. And here it is, kicking along 15 years later, right? So I understand why they put BW in there. I've got a lot of clients who are actually scared to unpick BW because they spent 20 years customizing the living hell out of it. And SAP and the partners encouraged it. Nobody cared about the complexity, they cared about the output. So you make a really good point a bit earlier. Universal ledger, the financial data lakes, none of our clients care about that. You know
No.
what they want? They want a bloody Excel spreadsheet with one or two other things, a few macros, and they want the answer to the damn exam question when they go into the meeting when the boss asks. That's
Yeah.
what they want. They don't want
Yeah.
this fancy flashing thing that costs $20 million
Oh.
a year to buy and even more to maintain. They want a 5-minute sugar hit that gets them from one meeting to the next with a reasonable amount of fidelity in the data layer.
But
What do you mean? You mean the biggest ERP system in the world, Excel?
Hey, I used to hate Excel because I used to drink from the Kool-Aid fountain, the SAP Kool-Aid fountain. And I spent years with many clients trying to drive out Excel, but I woke up one morning and I had an epiphany and I realized Excel is actually your best friend. There's nothing wrong with the tooling and the capability
it's just not
if you
SOX.
do it the right way.
It's not SOX compliant. That's why we like Power BI. That's the only. It's
Guys, I have a financial controller friend that swears by Lotus 123.
yeah.
He said there's functionality in that is not in Excel. Then this is a mindset change. He refuses to change.
Yeah.
Even though he can't get the product anymore, he's forced to use Excel.
But Paul, there's a really good point there, which is I've got like an FP&A toolkit from 1996, which bolted onto R3, which is still fantastic today. And it's an Excel toolkit which just bolts on, and you basically it works fantastically. And I can generate out of it a full set of management accounts with variance analysis and an FRS cash flow. Why do I need anything else? And that's 20, it's 30 years old, mate, now, and it's in Excel. And I think, yeah, it just goes back to the relevance perspective. I mean, my final message on this bit of the conversation is Paul Byrne and myself, we had to talk to a customer who was running S4 but didn't know how to use SAC. And we see that all the time. You've got customers who've implemented S4, have got SAC, they don't know how to use basic SAC. No one's actually said to them, here's your standard SAC reporting catalog, here's all your reports, this is what you can get. I mean, think about the number of customers who can't even use Fury properly. It's staggering in terms of look how good SAP is, whether it's private cloud or public cloud S4, it's absolutely fantastic. But the problem is no one is ever trained to get the benefit out of the existing off-the-shelf data sources, whether it's SAC or Fury, let alone anything else. Anyway.
Isn't there another quick point there? And sorry, Paul, and that a lot of customers are not paying attention and they get SAP or an ERP system done to them. So when it comes to, using the tool, or in that particular client that you're talking about, the SI didn't even implement the FP&A pack, but charged them for it.
Yep. We got one at the moment, haven't we, Paul, where they've paid for SAC and they've paid for FP&A bolt-on and they've never used it. So we're going to get their money back, aren't we?
100%.
Right. Now I'm going to stop you now because we're going to go into a bit of a session where I've got a load of points I've picked up from the video whilst drinking my Starbucks. And I'm going to ask you guys to generally just tell me what you think. But before we do, let's just look at this. There you go. So that's just paying deference to Christian Klein and the video. Okay. Right. So here we go. So some thoughts on. First of all, what do you think about the construct is an open data architecture now then?
Oh,
You want to go first?
no, I'll let you hit it, mate. Because I'll just copy what you said.
It's been overdue. You know that I'm a vocal critic of the closed ecosystem. I've been banging on Christian and SAP's drum for many years in both my books about it. It benefits the client, it creates competition, and it just allows
Is it me?
better value and efficiency. How that actually pans around in the real world, I'm not so sure. There were quick sideways remarks around opening SAP's data model. I got questions around it a few minutes ago. You made a really good point around compliance when I mentioned Excel. Before this thing hits the street in anger, clients are going to have to spend a lot of money putting up data guardrails around which data can get accessed by who, under what conditions. You cannot just deploy this thing on a site and go, we've got an open data model, we're going to absolutely unleash value for our shareholders. Hang on a minute, mate. There's finance data, HR data, PI data, APP data, GDPR data. Slow down.
Do you think anyone in the SAP product base or the SAP sales organization actually understands controls?
I think they do, but I think in the interests of their velocity to try and close their existential threat. So this ties back to that monolithic structure question, right? They've got to try and lock in as many customers as they can, because all these big customers, as you know, once they're locked in, they can't leave. So they consider it, they push it to the customer as a problem.
Right, here's a different point. There's a different optic on it. Okay. We've got a new president. Okay. Fantastic. And had a client yesterday say the CIO is running off to see the CFO because they're going to talk about the impact of US tariffs. Okay. So when you look at sort of like the open data architecture piece, aren't SAP going to impose a huge tariff in terms of the ability to push out or consume data? So again, it's that going back into that licensing model. You've got RISE on one side, but that consumption-based model, that's surely going to be a tariff, which is going to stop customers really moving into a sort of like a data fabric architecture and sort of like that whole open data architecture piece.
Let me just play you. Let me put a stage on your mind, throw some lights on. I'm going to put a few marionettes on the stage for you. I have an S4 instance. I have an Oracle data warehouse.
Nice.
I have 2 Oracle tools sitting in another country, ERP systems run through an M&A, but I haven't converted them to SAP. I've got 10 other applications. I go and buy this capability from SAP and I stitch it all together. Who's going to knock on your door the day after tomorrow? Oracle, Terra, etc. SAP still have indirect access, right, for OP and DAP for digital for cloud. Who's going to be taking the ownership and accountability for that data stitching? I didn't hear a single mention of that. I've been a vocal advocate for SAP and Oracle to grow up and drop this IA and DAP crap because we live in an open society with a global economy. That was punitive data taxation measures that I believe are far out of their time. I expected Christian today to go, as of today, that's no longer a force in effect, and we'll make a formal legal announcement or whatever it is. But I expected that to enable an open data platform and open standards. You need that. Otherwise, when the clients go with this and they go, what do you mean I need 5,000 FUEs to connect this to talk to that just to get a report? That's cost prohibitive. And then let's go back to the genesis of this thing. What's the value proposition? If I now have to spend millions of dollars on superfluous licenses to connect to this, then I'll just stay where I am, or I'll find another way.
Yeah.
Where's the value?
Yeah, no, I agree totally. I mean, I think there are so many questions to ask in terms of the model and how it really fits together. Another question for you guys. There was a big statement made about the partner ecosystem coming in and starting to build out some of these AI agents and stuff. And it was the normal suspects, Accenture, PwC, Deloitte, all the normal. I was going to say blaggers, but that's not right. They're all top people, I'm sure. But the normal people making hay. Do you think there's an opportunity for boutiques and a whole new wave of partners to come in and start building? Or is it going to be just normal, whereby there's going to be a few people investing in the tool set and building out some apps around it, but you're not going to see a huge sort of like catalog being built up around it? What's your idea? But is it going to open up to a partner ecosystem?
I'm thinking no, because the usual suspects will be involved, and they'll be allowed on the partner platforms with their tool sets.
Yeah.
What there will be, and with the space I see, and maybe I'm biased, that there will be room for the boutiques to go in and fix it all
Yeah.
when it's not done right, and it won't be done right. And I'm not picking on anybody, but one senior SI, we all know him, called me today and was basically drilling my head trying to find information. And if we listen to him in a presentation,
Yeah.
normally he talks a great talk, but underneath it all, they're just making it up day by day. What more can I say?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I normally cut his legs off, and don't I, and spit in his skull. Yeah, good point.
So can I give you a perspective on that?
Yeah, go on.
I think SAP missed a massive opportunity for a real Google Play Store style explosion.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely spot on,
They
mate. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely missed a golden chance at it. There'll be the usual suspects. They'll come out with some of their enterprise class little stuff. But
yeah.
because of the nature and the virtue and the complexity of this thing and the open questions we have, everyone's going to have a look in and go, nah, too much
See,
effort, too much risk.
I was toggling last night with a SAP partner in the UI5 space, and not particularly happy again with SAP's sales organization, just in terms of the positioning of some of the partner stuff, which is not big, big four. You can invest a lot and get nowhere because you're just not if you're not on the radar of the sales organization, then you just don't stand a look in. Right, good.
So
Right, let's.
can I ask a question? How many more opportunities are SAP or any other ERP going to have to do more smoke and mirrors presentations like today?
No, I. So my view is that data has always been. I think if you so as I blogged the other day, the business suite's back in town. Okay, so we've gone back in time. It's 2006. Bill's running around. SAP dominates, and we've done that, and the business suite's back. Fantastic, and they've ERP's fantastic. CX is going well now. Business networks on fire is going brilliant, and sort of like success factors is going okay. And now we've got S4 HCM as well. So the wider architecture is all working really well, and the Achilles has always been data. So I think they had to do this. I just think they had to do this. But outside of that, I don't see a particular issue with the wider SAP product portfolio other than data. That's my honest view. I think data was the Achilles.
I agree there, and it still is.
Yeah, I don't think this fixes it. I think the more I think about it, the more I just think lipstick on a pig. But it doesn't matter. No one cares what I think. So a couple of other points just as they drop out. Dual, Dual seems to be now the answer to everything. I wish it wasn't because if you Dual pops up everywhere now, it's becoming annoying, isn't it? That Dual can do this, Dual can do everything, Dual can do everything. What's your view, Paul C? Happy that Dual is the co-pilot of choice for this bugger's model?
No,
Oh,
I don't like the fact that vendors dictate or prescribe. I like them having a toy or a tool
yeah, yeah,
as their principal option, but I like choice. You know, I like choice. You know, I like
yeah,
competition. I
yeah.
like giving clients the opportunity to go, actually, we looked at Joule and it's not going to be fit for us. We want to use AI, LLM, this widget, that, and we want to overlay it with this.
Right.
Give them the choice and the ability to manage the business as they see fit.
Uh, uh, uh,
SAP do not have the answers for every enterprise. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way.
well, it should though. I mean, I think the problem is that SAP just over-engineers some stuff, and I think the the data architecture product range is just bonkers. It is, but I think with tech singularity, I think they got really excited in 28. They got really excited with Leonardo. That was okay. They disappeared. We needed machine learning. They got really excited again in 2018, 2019 with Data Hub because it really did have proper AI. It was supposed to be for large data sets, big data, and it had Python and sort of like all the Jupyter and all that type of stuff associated to it. So that's cool. I just feel that if the focus at the moment is all about the mid tier, this is a million miles away from the mid tier. So we seem to be sort of like we really sort of like swinging in terms of where SAP's focus at the moment. I think you said you thought this would be about the mid tier. I didn't, but I wish it had been, to be honest. Um,
I was really hoping that they're targeting the mid tier because the top end of town is saturated, right? It's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a couple of swap sales here and there, and but the mid market the grow and I love the grow model. I think that was a masterclass from SAP,
yeah, yeah.
and I was hoping they would announce something to take away all in one by design kind of thing and give something that's really agile. A few weeks to implement something that's high end with some agentic capability on top and give that mid market some real punch,
We do that.
economically, strategically.
So just so you know, and putting in a little advert, Dragon ERP does implement S/4HANA Public Cloud General Ledger APAR within a month. But we won't talk about that. Fixed price, it's our foundation service. Right. So a couple of other points. They talked about the ability to do simulation and 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 also the ability for this to work cross enterprise. And my view was, well, of course it should. I mean, well, what are you talking about? It should always be able to do that.
Hey, Al, wasn't that what the SAP boardroom cockpit was supposed to do?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. But the whole point of simulations, it's always supposed to be able to do that. Um, Large language models, yeah, who no one cares. Cross Business Suite, we spoke about that. Do you think this is going to be now bundled into Rise Premium Plus? They're going to have to throw it in because DataSphere is in there, isn't it already? So they're going to have to throw this in as part of Rise as a freebie.
Well, I don't know about freebie, but
What part of freebie? This won't be free.
no, because this is costing a lot of money in itself. The bit he was speaking about, the natural language model, that's old.
Yeah,
But Databricks, that's that's not old, but we could have done it all with Databricks. But because you're bringing Databricks into the ecosystem, it's going to cost.
but
Someone's going to get paid.
the only reason they're doing that is because they can't afford to. It's not like Hybris; they can't afford to buy Databricks. I mean, I looked at their market cap at the moment, and I think it was sort of like 69 billion. So, unfortunately, Christian probably would like to buy Databricks, bring it in, destroy it, incorporate it into something, and then it'll disappear within a couple of years. But they don't. They haven't got the cash for that. So, yeah, I just
Ultrix,
go.
anybody?
I've just yeah, but we all know SAP doesn't innovate. SAP watches what's forming. They look at what's potentially going to go well, because we're all good at that. We all sort of like make predictions based upon what we see going on around us. SAP acquire, they don't innovate, and we know that, but that's cool. I mean, there's no problem with that, and they're the best in the world at it. Right, going forward, do you see this as becoming the sort of like the data foundation for our future AI ERP, which is going to replace S4? I mean, my prediction is that we'll see our new ERP friend by 2030. What do you reckon? Do you think this is the first step in tooling up for our future ERP?
Yes, architecturally it is incredibly inelegant. But
Yes.
yeah, first solver, 100% agreed.
Yep.
Test the orders and tune it to 2.0, 3.0.
Uh,
My gosh, as first attempts go, this is abysmal, but absolutely,
yeah.
they've got to move out of their current monolithic
Yeah.
space. 100% agree.
So yeah,
I
Paul,
agree. I agree with you there too, because if you look at version 1 of S/4HANA 2015,
oh
15,
yeah,
10,
yeah.
that was a mess, right?
Mm,
Compared to, so if this is the first salvo for, call it what you like, but let's give it a name for namesake for the moment, S5. I think you coined that, uh,
mm.
Alistair, a while back. But again, the name doesn't make a difference. They need to do something for their next gen. And again, I think you pointed out, Alistair, by 2033, S/4HANA is 18 years old.
Mm. Because my view was just that a lot of those ECC customers will never go on to S4, even if they're on RISE, they'll just go straight on to what comes out in 2030. I also wonder, one of my points, Paul C, was a lot of people have been bitten with S4. The early adopters on S4 are all having to do nasty upgrades at the moment. And I wonder how sort of like the DataSphere folk feel at the moment in terms of investing in DataSphere. There's only about 550 DataSphere clients anyway. There's not many of them. I think that's one of the problems. I wonder how they feel about being sort of like, early into DataSphere, and probably the whole DataSphere model being turned upside down now.
Well, I would imagine the usual gamut of emotions, betrayal. We've supported you to get this thing piloted. Like the early S4 adopters, you make a really good point. I was around some of the
Mm.
first, 15, 11,
Yeah.
16, 10s, 9s, right? I've got clients that invested upwards of $100 million, right, to get those solutions in place, and now come to me and go, we feel SAP have left us behind. So in the context of the DataSphere one, absolutely agree. But you got to look at the macro picture, in my view, of what SAP is trying to achieve. And I can't get away from this concept of a land grab, trying to federate control of the data inside a gilded cage. This just looks like a gilded cage to me. I can't. The more I look at this thing, the less I can see any value in it. Honestly, I just don't.
Okay. Let me ask another question. I only got a couple more to go. So, do you think the customer's actually going to get this? Do you think they actually understand what's just been presented to them?
Not a chance. Not in my mind. Um, they don't get, okay, let me put some logic behind that. Customer is busy running their business today. And a lot of them have over customized and over configured and RISE systems, their current systems to pieces. They don't have time to, they're expecting people like us to help them. And we get it wrong. We, with the amount of news and information that's coming out from the ERP world, I'm not just saying SAP, we often get it muddled up. So customer has got no time.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things sort of like I was disappointed about was I get really, really excited about the construct of plug and play innovation. And most customers want plug and play, because that's why the cloud, and I hate talking about the cloud, but the ability of customers, especially the mid-tier, to go out and just get really good cloud products which they can just plug and play very, very quickly, get immediate value from, which are cheap as chips. That's plug and play. There's no big, that's proper SaaS. There's no big investment.
But there's a good reason for that, Al. It's time to value, right?
Yeah,
They want to
absolutely.
plug and play, and they want to be up and running in
Right.
10 minutes, and they want to get a
Right.
return. There's absolute pure logic in what you're saying, right? TTV is what it's about.
Yeah, and therefore, when you then look at what Christian Klein talked about in Q3 investor briefing, which was joining the dots, which we now know is Business Suite, so joining the dots, it was all about saying, right, I'm now going to open up AI, SAP AI, to the broader client base. And I know my ECC customers, the bulk of them, which aren't ever going to move to S4, are cash cows, and they want to spend money with me, but Julia made it really difficult for them to spend money with me by bagging on about clean core constantly, and you can only have AI if you're on SAP Cloud. Well, now all that rubbish is finished. I just thought we were going to be in the realm of SAP having quick to market, quick to deploy, plug and play bolt-ons, which an ECC customer could consume, or you should be able to drop in on top of your data fabric and start gaining immediate value. But when I look at this, it's another one of these rip it out and start again, and it's a long burn, big investment to get any form of benefit from it. For me, it's counterintuitive as to what the customer really wants at the moment.
Look at your 2 points. I'm going to take your point now. So there's the time to value, there's the adoption, right? And I want to take Paul B's comment around no one's got time to look at the data and things get more and more complex. One of the presenters actually mentioned, she said, 95.6, and she threw a whole bunch of stats around stuff. I'm sure they had all that lined up in advance. No one's got time to look at the data. No one's even got time to analyze it. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, yeah, okay. Then I looked at this thing and I go, but if we already don't have time to do this and analyze it with all the toys and tools we have right now, if I add this to the mix, I'm going to go backwards, not forwards.
Yeah.
Now there's a free-for-all on here. The first thing you got to worry about is governance. I'm sorry. The data strategy, where is it before you unleash this thing?
Yeah.
Then there's the elephant in the room, or the herd of elephants, is who is going to wire this thing up. You are going to need armies of architects and data scientists and analysts and business to go and wire this up to get your business semantic layer into place so that the business can actually consume it in a contextually relevant manner. They were dead silent on all of that. And I've seen, so when you were talking, both of you, I was like, the spark just jumped between the two wires. I was like, this will actually send you backwards, not forwards.
So Paul, what you're really saying is there have been absolutely no lessons learned from S4 in terms of rip it up, start again, wait 18 months, then get possibly some benefits, and then wonder why 60% of your ECC customer base are never going to move because they know.
And that's your point around adoption.
Yeah.
When you unleash a capability, make it easy to consume and digest,
Absolutely.
and make it time to value fast. Then your ECC customers will get on the bus. Your S4 customers will continue to support you, and those that are on the fence or with competitor products will look over the wire and go,
okay,
"Gee, I'd like a piece of that."
Right. So I've been a naughty boy really because I've been acting like a barrister because what I did was I just dragged you into my killing field, and so my killing field is the hyperscalers on the basis that we know the customer needs this and the customer wants this, but they want it tomorrow. And they want to, like you say, how are they going to do it all? They don't have the time, they ain't got the money, but they want it. Does that mean that the hyperscalers and Larry the Cat and some Chinese people are all going to pile in with their own solutions, which you could then just stick around SAP and do whatever you want? Are we going to see that? We're going to see sort of like the hyperscalers now stepping up and saying, hold on, we've got iPaaS, we've got PaaS, we've got everything you want. Come and talk to us. You don't need to go RISE. You don't have to stick it on RISE. Come and stick your S4 in our hyperscaler data center, and we'll give you all the toys and a bit of AI and everything else.
Can I jump in on
How do
that
you get around
first?
the license constraint?
True. No, good point. Good point. But so give me just 1 second on that.
Yeah.
Who went to the cloud first? Who's got the biggest tool set first? Before,
Hyperscalers.
yeah, and one in particular, AWS. They've been doing this since 2007, so they've got a much more mature tool set. Azure is pretty much good. GCP are pretty good.
Yeah.
SAP didn't enter the fray till I'm going to get the date wrong, but I think it was 2014. So, hello.
But isn't it all right? So, but be devil's advocate, Paul C. AWS are now hosting S4HANA Public. there's an so there's an
Yeah, but white labeled, right? White
yes.
labeled by
Yeah, but
yeah.
it's still AWS best for HANA public.
Yeah.
I mean, and all I'm saying is that the hyperscalers are going to look at this, and they're savvy, and they can see this as an opportunity to sort of like upsell everything under the sun. And most of those SAP customers have got multiple relationships with different hyperscalers, so they've probably got two or three anyway. And therefore, I mean, Dragon at the moment, we've signed up to Google, and Google, load of Google sort of like analytics products, because we looked at AWS, but we're a Google house. So I thought, let's go and have some fun with Google, and why not? And I just wonder whether that speed to market and the ability to gain value very, very quickly is the Achilles in this SAP model at the moment.
Let's drive that knife blade 6 inches deeper. If you look at the maturity, the tools, capabilities that the hyperscalers have, and you go back to what BTP is and what it offers, BTP is like a 5-year-old trying to compete against a 21-year-old elite athlete. All these hyperscalers, tools, and capabilities outstrip anything BTP has to offer. So you got to ask the question more broadly. Going into your theme of things, where's the value proposition? And so to tie back to the three themes, right? Why can't we let S4 be hosted by a hyperscaler? Why can't we let the hyperscalers open up their data platforms? And then BTP also then becomes moot because it's just another technology platform.
But
You want to create an agnostic environment that's open. There's your answer. So yeah, I agree with you. Devil's advocate, go for it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always been SCP was. I've been clear. SCP was one of the best bits of innovation SAP have come up with in sort of like about 10 in a decade at the time. Far more important than S4 and in-memory. In-memory is just it's no value at all. But SCP was. But we know SAP is so rich in terms of functionality, and very little of it ever gets used by the average SAP customer. It's again, so you then look if you look at BTP as a model, and then you look at the SAP, was it Business Data Cloud architecture? They're both going to be the same. Most customers will never use the bulk of that solution, and I just wonder, as Paul said, what will we be looking at by 2030? Because 2030, the new ERP will be out, and then this will be a totally different product. It's going to be like how SAP is morphed into BTP and Leonardo disappears. All right, so what else we want to talk about? So we talked about that. We talked about that. Go on, Paul.
Can I say,
Yeah,
we all want to love SAP.
we love
We,
SAP.
and we want to love it, but they make it hard to love.
Well, the SAP would be better off if they actually had us on the board, or had us to the side and ask us some sensible questions every now and again in terms of, does this really fly, and what do we need to do to improve it before we go to market? Imagine that.
I am on the analyst. I am on the analyst board, and they've sent an invite today for the 28th of February. But no doubt after this video, I'm going to get kicked off that for sure.
Well, they won't watch this video. They never do. All right, my final question. Okay. Do you see Paul K's enterprise architect stormtroopers as the answer for this to get this adopted by the customer?
Paul B.
No, I don't. What Paul K is doing is wonderful.
Yeah.
He's building up a lot of really good people. But again, I think you said it, Alistair, before. Who's listening to enterprise architects? They do wonderful work, but they can't. They need to be able to sell this to the business, and they're not able to.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm an enterprise architect. I've done my TOGAF, and I love it. Because it enables you to be a purist in terms of your thinking, in terms of enterprise design and all that stuff. So we can have these conversations today because we're all enterprise architects. But I tend to think that enterprise architects have no power. So in any organization, you can have a great team of enterprise architects, but ultimately, they don't actually wield any power. No one, most of the time, no one actually ever listens to them. And therefore, having a big team of enterprise architects from SAP going out and speaking to the customer's enterprise architects is great. But ultimately, it's just a circle jerk, isn't it?
So for me,
go on, Paul.
Paul K's focus is in the right place. He lacks, in my view, he does a really great job. But I think what's lacking here is the gravitas to get this over from a business point of view.
Yes, that's
The
what I'm talking about.
architectural,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
the architectural component aside, he absolutely delivers in spades, right? He knows his stuff. But I don't think he has a gravitas at board level to tell a client in a language they understand what the value proposition is and how to drive that home. And the sales organization exacerbates that by leaving out key questions like, what is this thing going to cost? Where's indirect access? How do the SaaS licenses work? How do the seeding? They should come to the party with ready answers to those questions. And maybe if I was SAP, I'd have 3 or 4 worked examples or use cases of the most likely scenarios that clients are likely to face and have ready answers to those. Yep, that's going to be a problem. Yep, that's going to be a fair bit of work, but here's the value. All I
Okay.
hear is product, 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 product. And I'm not getting the closing the loop. If I'm an executive decision maker and you're coming to me with a new toy, you haven't told me anything that I need to hear.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So,
Give me
go on, Paul.
one more second on that. A couple of years ago, worked with a client, and they said, "Well, why are you not talking to the enterprise architects?" I said, "Because they do not know your ERP system." In that case, was SAP, and I am spending time teaching them SAP, and they're making a design on stuff they don't know about, but yet the business is still not listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very, very risky place to be.
Yeah.
I'm working with a current utility client that is in that exact same position, not through want of trying. It's just a virtue of where they ended up. They have very little to no SAP knowledge, but they are being required and asked of to make SAP design and investment decisions without any baseline. And they're good mob. They're trying hard, but they're hopelessly out of their depth because they lack the contextual understanding. Cannot link it to the business strategy, and let's not even go there around phase 0, right? So they're in a very, very precarious position, and they've got the SIs absolutely just drumming the SAP bill of material at them the whole time. You need this, and this. And fortunately, for the client, I would say if I be cocky, they've hired me, so I've put a stop to that chorus singing. But they're in that. So to support Paul, that's that position they're in. They're required to make all these decisions like fast and have it backed up. They've got no context, no relevance, no experience. And it's massively risky for the business. The speed at which businesses need to pivot today does not allow them to make that level of mistake.